participate in today's meeting telephonically. Members of the public may view and listen to the meeting through the meeting live online through the city's website as noted on the agenda. Council members, please announce any item. Okay. Council members, please announce any item you're recusing due to any conflict of interest prior to the item being heard. Tonight's invocation will be given by Pastor Leal, and the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by our chief.
Mayor, the staff, our city leaders, our councilmen and councilwomen, and all the employees and the guests are here. It's an honor to be back in person. Wow, it feels really great to see each one of you. Even though we have masks, but at least we get to see our eyes and our hair. And it's always such a blessing to be here. Our city is something very special to me. You know, that's where our church is, and that's where I live. So to see each one of you, it's always a blessing. And as we pray, I have a verse that I wanted to share with you, and it's a promise from God. And it says, "Then you should call, and the Lord would answer. You should cry out, and He will say, 'Here I am.'" So let us pray, knowing that when we ask, when we pray, when we cry out to Him, He's always there to hear us. Let us bow our heads and remember, as we pray, we come into the presence of God. Father, we just want to thank you this evening. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to be back in person in such an important activity. Thank you for our mayor. Thank you for each of our city leaders and our councilmen and councilwomen, our chief. There's such a blessing in each one of the employees that make the city work. Father, I ask that your blessing be upon them, that you just take over this meeting and just guide him in everything that is done. It will be for, Father, your will, and also for the good of our citizens. We ask this in the name of Jesus. And can we say amen? Thank you.
City Clerk, can you please call the roll of the City Council?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Becerra, excuse me.
Present.
Councilwoman Cortez.
Present.
Councilwoman Flores Franco.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Chavez.
Present.
And Mayor Pulido.
Present. We will now move to the presentation. City Manager, will you please introduce the first item for the first presentation?
Thank you, Mayor Pulido. The first item is recognizing October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. We have some residents here with us to hear the proclamation and also receive the proclamation as well. So we're happy to see them here.
Our first presentation is Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can you guys hear me? Sounds like you can. So it is my pleasure today to have this proclamation on Domestic Violence Awareness and Prevention Month. And I will show it here on the camera for everyone watching from home. This is a proclamation. Whereas Domestic Violence Month was launched nationwide in October 1987 as a way to connect and unite individuals and organizations working on domestic violence issues while raising awareness for those issues. And whereas, while our nation has made significant progress in addressing domestic violence by responding to the stories and leadership of courageous survivors, as well as through advocacy and legislative action, domestic violence nonetheless remains all too common in America. And whereas millions of women and men are impacted by some form of intimate partner abuse each year, and whereas domestic violence can cause injury, fear, post-traumatic stress disorder, housing insecurity, missed school or work, and other devastating consequences. And whereas historically, underserved populations, including LGBTQI+ survivors, persons with disabilities, immigrants, racial and ethnic minorities, and American Indians, Alaska Natives, and Native Hawaiians face some of the highest rates of domestic and sexual violence, along with additional barriers to safety and support. And whereas, as we continue the essential work of ending domestic violence, we can all help build a culture where abuse is not tolerated and where survivors are heard, supported, and protected. And whereas we can express our gratitude to the remarkable people and organizations that offer care and critical services to survivors of domestic violence. And we must remain committed to building a better world where all people can feel safe and respected and live free from abuse. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Maria Pulido, Mayor of the City of Bell Gardens, with the Council, do hereby proclaim October 2022 as National Domestic Violence Awareness and Prevention Month, and encourage residents of Bell Gardens to speak out against domestic violence and support efforts to educate all people about healthy relationships centered on respect, support victims and survivors in your own families and networks, and support the efforts of victim advocates, service and healthcare providers, and the legal system, as well as the leadership of survivors in working to end domestic violence. Proclaim this 10th day of October 2022. I'm just gonna go ahead and thank the volunteers that put together a domestic violence march/vigil. They are a group called Mujeres Empoderadas, and they are here today with us. And they are part of Spirit Services, which is a local nonprofit organization that offers so many services that revolve around domestic violence prevention, education, and a lot more, drug abuse, and a lot of issues that unfortunately are in our communities. So these amazing women invited me to be part of this march, and with the help and the support of the council and also our staff. We had an amazing march and we brought awareness to the community, but we need to continue to do that throughout the month and throughout the year. And for as long as there is this issue in our community, we need to bring awareness to it. I'll turn it over to my colleagues if you guys want to add some words to that.
Yeah, absolutely. So briefly, I just want to echo the words that my colleague, Councilman Barcena had mentioned in regards to this item. I had the pleasure and honor of also attending the march, and the amount of leadership and dedication from these mujeres poderosas, which honestly is just amazing. It takes a lot of courage to talk about a topic like domestic violence. And, after the march, we had a small little vigil at Veterans Park, and we got to see all the different types about different forms of domestic violence, which is not just, physical, it comes emotional, mental, a lot of different ways. And I was really glad to see that take place, and really mostly majority women come together and unite behind a serious issue of domestic violence. So again, appreciate everything that was done, and I'm glad to see that our community is united when it comes to this topic. So again, thank you so much, appreciate it. And thank you to Spirit Family Services for organizing this and spearheading this as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other comments before we move on to the next presentation? No?
I have a question, Madam Mayor. Should we wait until we do all the presentations to take a picture with them?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, let's take the picture now and then do the next one. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to say a few words about the vigil or?
Si nos pueden hacer un favor de decir unas palabras, nos gustaría mucho escucharlas. Y gracias por todo lo que hacen en la comunidad.
Bárcena, nosotros somos un grupo de mujeres que pertenecemos a la organización de Spirit y trabajamos en mujeres empoderadas que está en contra de la violencia doméstica. Nuestra visión es inspirar, motivar, potenciar, empoderar y conectar a mujeres a encontrar su autenticidad y vivirlo. Mi compañera Mayra les va a dar cuál es nuestra misión.
Buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Mayra Rodríguez. Nuestra misión de Mujeres con Poder es educar e informar a la comunidad, compartiendo y apoyando mutuamente a las familias, conectando organizando, expandiendo proyectos para llegar a todos los niveles necesitados. Gracias.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es María Padilla. Para mí es un gusto estar esta tarde aquí frente de ustedes. Como comentaron al principio, es muy gratificante poderlos mirar a los ojos, no a través de una cámara, pero en esta tarde para mí es muy importante este mensaje por esta promulgación que acabamos de recibir. Nosotros como mujeres con poder y Spirit Family, nosotros buscamos no nada más el capacitarnos nosotras para ser mujeres empoderadas, sino también para transmitir todo esto a nuestra comunidad. Nos preparamos como promotoras de violencia contra la mujer y otros temas más como autoestima, muchos temas que nos ayudan a ser mejores para servir nuestra comunidad. Al nosotros volvernos promotoras, no es solamente nada más el ayudar a las víctimas, sino también la prevención. Y en ese punto ustedes son una parte muy importante como concilio, nuestro departamento de policía, nuestra ciudad, la comunidad, porque debemos trabajar mucho en la prevención. ¿Y cómo vamos a combatirla? Si no es educándonos, conociendo los temas, como lo comentó el vicepresidente Jorge, cómo es conociendo los tipos de violencia. No nada más es un golpe, no nada más es una herida, sino también psicológica, emocional, económica, muchas cosas, y la comunidad a veces no lo sabe. Entonces es muy bueno trabajar educando a la comunidad. Nosotros estamos aquí para eso, para hacer un cambio en nuestra comunidad y que pues tal vez esto no se termine siempre, pero por lo menos saber que estamos educando y ya cuando pasa esta situación de violencia doméstica, ayudar a las víctimas a que sepan salir y que hay una salida, que hay recursos y traérselos a la comunidad. Muchas gracias por su apoyo. Tomamos mucho valor esto nos refuerza, nos hace más fuertes como mujeres con poder y sabemos que vamos por el buen camino. Muchísimas gracias.
Tengo una pregunta, nada más quería saber para las personas, especialmente a las mujeres de la comunidad que están viendo desde su casa y tienen interés en su organización, en su grupo. ¿Ustedes toman miembros nuevos o si a alguien le interesa, qué es lo que tienen que hacer ellos o ellas?
Nosotros tenemos la oficina de Spirit Family Services, Service Center, que está aquí cruzando la calle, pues son vecinos de la ciudad. Ahí cualquier necesidad que tengan, ya sea de violencia doméstica, de drogas, eso, pueden dirigirse con nuestras coordinadoras, la Miss Norma o Miss Evelyn o cualquiera de las mujeres que están ahí, de las encargadas en la oficina. Ahí van a recibir todos los recursos que necesiten, las capacitaciones, y también tenemos otras organizaciones que nos apoyan, como SLA Women's Center, que son las que nos capacitan como promotoras de violencia contra la mujer. Entonces, cualquier persona que quiera acudir a tomar estos talleres, nosotros podemos, yo personalmente, en 2 semanas voy a tener un taller y estoy buscando personas que quieran conocer y saber de lo que es la violencia doméstica, de los recursos que hay, y también se pueden acercar a Spirit y nosotros las canalizamos a las ayudas que necesitan. Es una oficina muy completa. Ustedes van a sentir la calidez del personal cuando entran ahí, siempre los reciben con un amor, se siente la confianza de poder, y más cuando uno va lastimado, va herido por cualquier situación que vivimos en nuestro hogar. Llegamos ahí y ahí recibimos esa calidez y esa fuerza para salir del problema en el que vamos. Así que los esperamos en Spirit y ahí vamos a estar mujeres con poder apoyando a cualquier mujer y hombre también, porque recordemos que en estos tiempos no solamente la mujer sufre violencia doméstica, también los varones. Gracias.
Gracias.
Mayor, if I may, just want to say something. Yes. Señoritas, ahorita que están aquí, les quiero tomar la oportunidad de darles las gracias por todo el amor y todo el cariño y todo el servicio que ustedes han brindado a esta comunidad. Yo sé que es su primera vez aquí hablando en nuestras chambers, es un poquito a veces nervioso porque pues es diferente. Hicieron un muy buen trabajo, pero voy a tomar esta oportunidad no solamente para agradecerles lo que están haciendo ustedes ahorita en este momento, pero también por el liderazgo que han brindado en otras ocasiones cuando hicimos lo del control de renta. Ustedes brindaron muchísimo de su tiempo y yo sé que ustedes son unos líderes que lo hacen con todo corazón. Así que ustedes son, eso es algo, pero se merecen mucho más. Así que gracias. Y mamá de Marco, no es fácil ser mamá de un concejal, ¿verdad? Eso es su propio servicio público separado. Así que muchas gracias también a usted por todo su involvement aquí en nuestra comunidad. Todos siempre se la aprecia. Muchas gracias, muchachas. Bye bye.
The next presentation will be led by Councilwoman Lisette Flores.
All right. So I'll be reading a proclamation in honor of Indigenous Peoples Day. For those at home, this is on City of Bell Gardens proclamation. Whereas in 1977, the idea of Indigenous Peoples Day was first proposed by the delegation of Native Nations of the United Nations sponsored International Conference on Discrimination Against Indigenous Populations in the Americas. And the United States endorsed the United Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People on December 19, 2020. And whereas the City of Bell Gardens recognizes and deeply values the vast contributions made by Indigenous peoples to our community that has substantially shaped the character of our city and our region. And whereas Indigenous Peoples Day shall be used to reflect upon the ongoing struggles of Indigenous people in our country and to celebrate and honor their heritage, resiliency, and diverse culture. Now therefore be it resolved that Ms. Maria Pulido, Mayor of the City of Bell Gardens, with its City Council, do hereby proclaim October 10th, 2022 as Indigenous Peoples Day and encourage all of you to join in celebrating and learning about the contributions and recognize the different cultures of the Indigenous people in our country, in our state, and in our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments from my colleagues? The next proclamation is in honor of Code Enforcement Officer Appreciation Week. The state of California has proclaimed the second week of October as Code Enforcement Officer Appreciation Week. Code enforcement officers have challenging and demanding roles, and often they do not receive the recognition for the job they do in improving the quality of life of our residents and businesses at local levels, not only in Bell Gardens, but in surrounding communities. The City of Bell Gardens recognizes and wishes to honor the code enforcement team that we have here in the City of Bell Gardens. I'm trying not to read it because we appreciate you so very much. And if I read it, it sounds like I'm just reading a piece of paper and I don't really support you and I don't care about you. Not to say that the rest of you that read them. But thank you so much for everything you do. We had such an incredible event yesterday in partnership with one of our churches, and the amount of people that showed up and was amazing. I think one of the examples that I see that the City of Bell Gardens has come a long way with our police department. The best example is seeing our children approach police officers and wanting to take a picture, and seeing our police officers as role models. And I remember years ago, that was a shocker, right? Well, approaching a police officer just because was kind of scary. And now it just becomes natural. Some of our children know specific police officers by name. They recognize them. And I think that's just because of the level of engagement that we've had and how close-knit we are in this community. So this is just one little token of appreciation that we want to present to you. We love you. We appreciate you. Thank you everything you do for our community. And we'll take a picture with all of you.
Mayor and members of the City Council, thank you very much for that. Our code enforcement officers definitely appreciate that. I know they don't get a lot of kudos out there. A lot of times it's complaints because they're giving out citations. So I'd like to introduce you to our two newer members of the code enforcement team, Mr. Alvin Galindo and Mr. Ruben Soriano. Come on up here.
Madam Mayor, honorable council members, we want to thank you for this proclamation. We tend to want to always be kind of like incognito, you know, we don't really like to be known. So, but we do thank you for the opportunity to serve here and work with y'all.
Madam Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
I want to welcome you guys to the City of Bell Gardens. It's really always a pleasure to see new people come. It's also kind of sad to see people go, and we've had some people go from that department, but we really appreciate you guys. I really value the work that code enforcement officers do. I know that it's a tough job, and I've talked about this before here on the dais, how nobody wants to receive that, you know, that note or notice about something that they might not be doing that's up to code or whatever. But you guys are out there doing that hard job. You know, somebody has to do it. It's you guys. And everything that I've heard from our code enforcement has always been positive. It's always been along the lines of the code enforcement officers here in the city of Bell Gardens always try to work with the resident. They try to interpret the law in ways that benefit the resident and that encourage a better environment in our city. So I appreciate that. I am sure you're going to be continuing on with that tradition of high quality customer service. And again, welcome to the city of Bell Gardens, and looking forward to seeing you guys in your vehicles out there all day. Thank you.
Anyone else before we take a picture?
Yes, Mayor. I just want to reiterate what Councilmember Barcena mentioned, and I think we've said it before. You have one of the also most hated jobs here in the city, as you're always enforcing our code. So thank you so much for the work that you do and constantly making sure that our businesses are safe and that everything is safe here in the city of Bell Gardens as well. Thank you.
Additionally, I guess I just want to piggyback off what my colleagues are mentioning. Your work is very highly appreciated. I understand that you guys might not be the most popular because you're the most liked, because you have to do your job and make sure that we are correcting those that need, to be corrected and guiding them in the correct way. So I appreciate you going out there and showing face and really doing that work that needs to be done so that we can up, the community, its standards, its quality of life, and overall the way that it looks and appears. So thank you.
Really, Jorge doesn't want to say anything. That's amazing.
Let the record show.
Está enfermo.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say something. It's gonna be a long one too. Thank you so much for all the work that you do. Really appreciate the service and the dedication to the community of Bell Gardens, and it really means a lot. Thank you.
Picture.
Thank you.
You don't want to go up? You don't want to go up?
No, I'm not going to get them. I'll give them the attention.
Right.
No, you're
Fine.
good.
All right,
I didn't realize how tall you were.
1, 2, 3. Another one, 1, 2, and 3.
The next presentation will be led by Mayor Pro Tem Jorge Chavez.
Okay. All right. National Community Planning Month Proclamation. Whereas change is constant and affects all cities, towns, suburbs, counties, boroughs, townships, rural areas, and other places, and community planning and plans can help manage this change in a way that provides better choices for how people work and live. And community planning provides an opportunity for all residents to be meaningfully involved in making choices that determine the future of their community. And the full benefits of planning requires public officials and citizens who understand, support, and demand excellence in planning and plan implementation. And the month of October is designated as National Community Planning Month throughout the United States of America and its territories. And American Planning Association endorses National Community Planning Month as an opportunity to highlight how planning is essential to recovery and how planners can lead communities to equitable, resilient, and long-lasting recovery. And the celebration of National Community Planning Month gives us the opportunity to publicly recognize the participation and dedication of the members of planning commissions and other citizens planners who have contributed their time and expertise to the improvement of the city of Bell Gardens. And we recognize the many valuable contributions made by professional community and regional planners of the city of Bell Gardens of the Los Angeles County and extend our heartfelt thanks for the continued commitment to public service by these professionals. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Maria Pulido, Mayor of the City of Bell Gardens, with the City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2022 and annually thereafter as Community Planning Month in the City of Bell Gardens in conjunction with the celebration of National Community Planning Month. Proclaimed this 10th of October 2022. Signed, Maria Pulido, Mayor, along with Bell Garden City Council.
Okay, thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem and Mayor and City Council. Again, we do appreciate this recognition. Again, city planners, once a year, we started this a couple of years ago. Thank you to the state, the federal government, and the American Planning Association. So I'd like to introduce to you our planning staff, our new city planner, Mr. Stephen Jones, our associate planner, Ms. Mona Masayeb, and our assistant planner, Mr. Adrian Flores. They're being shy. Thank you.
Any comments from my colleagues?
On this topic of community planning, I appreciate look at the team of the folks that we got. It truly amazes me. I really love community planning, and I always like to question why things are made in our city a certain way. And you go to different cities, and their sidewalks are completely different sometimes. And as someone who potentially would want to do his doctorate in urban studies, this is truly fascinating to me. So, I've been meaning to try to pick your brains and see what are some of the wildest concepts that we've experienced, right? Because you go to other countries and their approach to when it comes to planning or creating a city is very different, right? And here in our city, I mean, there's a reason why we have apartments and duplexes and ADUs, but then you go to other cities and they're all single family homes. Why is that? How did that come to be? And a lot of it has to do with the historical context of the way our cities were made, right? And I just really appreciate all the work that y'all do. And I'm really glad to see that we have Community Planning Month here in our city. So thank you so much.
Hi, guys. Thank you for being here. I also really appreciate you. I know that there's newer staff on the team, and welcome as well. Once again, I know that we've said welcome a few times already, but it's okay to say it again. And a little history about me. I was actually in the planning department for a little while. I wasn't working on any planning department tasks. I was still working on my recreation and community services stuff. But I really like the environment in that department. I like what you guys do for the community. I like how thoughtful everything you guys do is, because without you paying attention like you do and doing your job in such a way, our city wouldn't be the same. And I do love my city, and I think that's in large part thanks to you guys. So really appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you all, Madam Mayor and Honorable Council. We appreciate the recognition. We thank you very much. We want the people to know that we're working for them. We're working for Orgullo and La Comunidad. We want people to know that we are their servants. And so the public counter is obviously open, but we're definitely here about the people, and the people are what matter most. And we thank you for your recognition. Vamos la foto.
Pastor Lapp?
Thank you for the opportunity as a citizen. Sometimes I come to for planning department and I like to thank the great work that you guys are doing. Great customer service. It's not every city where you show up and they attend to your needs as nice as they do. So I wanted to thank you for the great work that you guys are doing. A lot of times, people don't recognize when somebody does a good work, but they're doing such a great work. So thank you, and God continue to bless you. And I just wanted to say that, and also to Griselle for the work that you guys are doing too. So just wanted to express that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And our final proclamation will be led by Councilwoman Alejandra Cortez.
Thank you, Mayor. For this, I would like to call up our wonderful Monica. Before I read this paper, as the mayor mentioned, we appreciate you. I was already in awe of you because you're so amazing to us, but now even more. Whew. So this proclamation is in honor of Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and we do have a cancer survivor with us, and you are now my hero. Whereas 1 in 8 women in the United States will be diagnosed with breast cancer in her lifetime. And whereas in 2022, in the US alone, an estimated 287,000 will be diagnosed with invasive breast cancer, and an estimated 43,000 women will die from the disease. And whereas breast cancer is the most commonly diagnosed cancer among American women, a woman's risk of breast cancer nearly doubles if she has first-degree relative, mother, sister, or daughter who has been diagnosed with breast cancer. About 85% of breast cancers occur in women who have no family history of breast cancer. Although the exact cause of breast cancer is unknown, most experts agree that there are several factors that increase your risk, such as gender, age, genetics, family history, weight, race, and although rare, men also get breast cancer. And in 2022, an estimated 2,710 men in the United States will be diagnosed with invasive breast cancer, and approximately 530 will die. We applaud the advocates, medical professionals, researchers, and caregivers who dedicate their lives to making progress towards cures. And even with all the new and effective treatments, we must continue to stand alongside those stricken with and survivors of breast cancer in a united effort to seek our better, more effective treatments, or ultimately a cure for the many forms of breast cancer. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that Maria Pulido, Mayor of the City of Bell Gardens, with the City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of October as Breast Cancer Awareness Month and encourage all residents of Bell Gardens to increase awareness by having annual detection practices and pay tribute to those who have lost their lives to this disease. Thank you, Monica. Would you like to say some words?
Madam Mayor, Honorable Council, I just want to say thank you for recognizing this. This December, I'll be 15 years cancer-free. And I was young at the time, a lot younger, and through self-exam and just knowing your body. So I encourage all women to always know their body and check it often. I was able to find it myself. And after a year of treatment, radiation, and chemo, I'm here today and I'm very grateful. So thank you.
And we are so grateful that you're here with us and that you're here standing today, giving your testimony and letting us know about this disease. I think it takes a lot of great courage. So thank you for sharing that with us. And again, I am in awe of you.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it, all of you.
Monica, really quick, I just want to say you're amazing. I always see how kind you treat everyone, and you have a lot of work. You have 5 different personalities to deal with, and you always give the best of yourself. And I didn't realize what a survivor you were. So thank you for being with us. Thank you for sharing your story, because in it you build community. So thank you. We appreciate
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Sorry, it's hard for me to find the button. I'm still getting used to it. But yeah, Monica, I just want to say, not only are you a survivor, you're actually making the world a better place. And I love that you work here, because the energy that you bring to the office, is just unique. It's something that I feel we need here in the city of Bell Gardens. Councilmember Flores said, yeah, 5 different personalities, and we're all very, very different. We all need different, I guess, communication to succeed. And I think that Monica does a great job at doing what she does, being that she's our executive assistant. And thank you, Monica, for using this opportunity that you have to continue with us, not just to be here, but to make the world a better place. Thank you.
Thank you.
Some of us have multiple personalities. And you do a great job in navigating through all of them. And something that I've noticed about you is that you always have this sense of calm, and you're always very kind. And not to say that, you know, I met your husband and I can see how happy he was. And I can see that it's because of you. And he's very lucky to have you, and very lucky to have you here as well. And again, I did not know this about you. Some people don't know how to keep a secret, but it's amazing because you're always so kind and nice to everybody. And I think it's just, you know, that's what helped you to get through it. And because you're so strong and you're just amazing. It's incredible. And like I told your husband, I will be nice to you. So,
Thank you. I appreciate that. So does he.
Mike, would you like to?
Yes, I'd like to also just make a comment about Monica. I think there are 5 personalities, plus there's the 7 that I have. So I think there's 12 in total that she deals with on a regular basis. But just, I think when you think of people that have survived different kinds of tragedies, whether that's war, health, family tragedies, and that, I think we all recognize that the strongest ones don't often talk about those tragedies and their successes. They don't brag about them. They've kind of move on with their life and take things in a positive direction and keep things moving forward. And Monica's definitely one of those people. So I'm very appreciative that we're able to recognize openly in public here that she's a survivor, and also thankful for her willingness to speak and to encourage women to keep an eye on themselves, to check themselves, and you may be able to catch something early before it becomes something more serious. So just thankful to have Monica here, and thankful that 15 years ago she was able to survive what she survived.
Thank you. Thank you all.
We will now begin with the first item on the agenda. At this time, I will open the public hearing at 6:51 PM. City Manager, would you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Mayor Polito. This item is a consideration of a resolution adopting a development impact fee nexus study and also the introduction of an ordinance amending municipal code to establish development impact fees. I do want to make a note that there will be a second hearing in the future to adopt the specific fee. So what this hearing does would be able to adopt the framework for that to exist. So with that, I'll turn it over to our Community Development Director, Gus Romo, for presentation and to also answer any questions that the council or public may have.
Mayor, members of the City Council, our consultant, Mr. James Nesbitt, is here with us today from Wildan. Unfortunately, since the start of the meeting, his voice has kind of left him. So I'm going to go ahead and give the presentation, but I would like to introduce him. He's right over here. And he will be here to answer any questions. So giving you a little bit of background, back at the end of 2020, there was proposals that were requested, and Wildan was the successful bidder for this, what's called the Development Impact Fee Nexus Study. So the council approved Wildan to go forward and conduct the study because prior to being able to adopt fees, there has to be a study done to be able to connect those fees with the actual cost of the improvements or the services that are required. So, oops, let's see. How does this go forward? Oh, there we go. Okay, so like I said, this study is needed prior to the actual adoption of the fees. As our city manager was stating, the next steps after this, if you adopt the study and you do the first reading of the ordinance to put development impact fees into your municipal code, then the next step is we do a public hearing for the actual amendment to the master fee schedule to put these fees into play. So what is a development impact fee? It's a one-time charge for new development. It's imposed at the building permit stage, and it's imposed on all new development projects within the city. They are funds that facilitate to serve that new development. So the impacts that are caused by the development, thus the name development impact fees, are paid by the developer. So that makes sure that your community is not impacted and you have those funds available for future improvements, such as parks, transportation, infrastructure, et cetera. Next slide, please. Oops, I better not touch this. Okay, so again, the key findings of the Mitigation Fee Act of the state of California is the development and its connection to need for facilities. The benefit of the development and the use of that revenue, how it can be used to develop new services, and the proportionality, in other words, the nexus, the connection of that fee amount with the developer's share of facility costs. Other findings, you have to identify the purpose of the fee and the use of that fee revenue. That fee revenue, once collected, can only be used for that specific purpose. Next slide. So when you look at the methodology, you have to estimate the existing development and future growth. So the developer went ahead and interviewed all the department heads, identified what are the costs of services from each department: recreation and community services, community development, public works, the police department, city admin. And you have to allocate the cost share to accommodate that future growth. You also have to identify alternative funding needs and calculate the fee by allocating the cost per unit by development. So what you're going to have is a unit fee for residential units and for non-residential units. Next slide. So when you look at the land use that you have in the city, you have to identify for a moderate growth projected in the city. What's that going to look like in 2040? So we're looking at your baseline year, which I believe, James, 2022 would be the baseline year. So a projected increases to 2040 based on 5,638 residents and 1,663 employees. Next slide. So the cost allocation methods, what facilities serve who? You look at your existing inventory, the existing facilities and how they project into the system plan, the planned facilities, so anything new that's coming on board. And so ultimately, you take your existing and planned facilities together. And James, this one, I'm going to have trouble. I'm going to ask you to explain this one. Existing plus facilities over existing new service proposed. Or is it the service population?
I'm terribly sorry. I don't know what's happened. My voice has left me. This is just meant to show the three ways of calculating the fees, either based on your existing standard, what's in place now, what you have planned in the future, or a sort of combination of both. It's really, there's sort of three ways of calculating it essentially.
Perfect. And that's based on the service population.
Yeah, yes. Sorry.
Thank you, sir. That's okay. Next slide, please. So the fee program was looking at these particular fees. That's what you paid for in the service. We identified the general government fee, and that's going to pay for general government services, administrative services, parks and recreation facilities, police department facilities, and also your general plan for future general plan amendments and transportation facilities. Next slide. So when you look at the major plan facilities, for instance, on the transportation system, you look at the Florence Corridor Complete Streets Project and the intersection improvements, just as examples. Law enforcement, new vehicles, IT equipment, et cetera. The general plan, again, the share from that developer to update the general plan, be it the land use element, the housing element, et cetera. General government facilities, looking at the master facilities plan that the city has. Parks and Recreation, looking at their existing parks and what it takes to maintain those parks and also project new parks. Next slide. And this is one of our last slides here. So when you look at how much we came up with per unit, again, we connected those unit costs based on the city's existing development and proposed development. What the consultant came up with, Wildan Financial, is for residential per square foot, for transportation facilities, a new developer is going to pay $1.43 per square foot. For parks and recreation subdivisions, it's about $15 a square foot. Parks and recreation infill, $10, $11 or so forth, et cetera. So the developers already have these things budgeted. When they come into a city, they identify more than likely what they're going to be paying in development impact fees. So you're not surprising them. What you do surprise them is if you don't have development impact fees, because then they use that budget for other purposes, since they're not going to be using it for impact fees. Last slide. So any questions you have? James is going to try to get through this, and I feel bad for him with his voice situation, but I think I can answer some questions as well. And just to let you know, as we've already pointed, the next steps after this, we're asking for you to adopt the resolution which approves the development impact fee study, and also do a first reading and introduction of the new chapter within Title 3 to put in development impact fees in your municipal code. So if you do this tonight, then we'll go ahead and start working on the public hearing for the actual amendment to the fee schedule. Thank you.
Any questions? We will now open public comments for this item. City Clerk, please announce the instructions for public participation.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on the public hearing item number 1. Please state your name for the record before addressing your comments to the mayor and council members. Each speaker and written comments are limited to 3 minutes. Callers wishing to make a comment may do so at this time, dialing *9 from your phone, and when instructed, dial *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining us through the Zoom app may request to make a comment by using the raise hand feature on Zoom and select the unmute or the microphone icon when instructed. We did not receive any in-person public comment cards, but if any member of the public would like to provide one, you may do so now. Okay, Mayor, members of the council, we didn't receive any written communications. We don't have anyone who is virtually participating who would like to provide a comment, and I did not receive a public comment card for this item.
If there's no objection by the city council, I will close public participation. If there's no questions or comments, I will close the public hearing at 7:02 p.m. May I have a motion to approve a resolution adopting the development impact fee study and introduce the first reading and waive further reading for ordinance number 928, amending Title 3 of the Bell Gardens Municipal Code to add Chapter 3.27 Title Development Impact Fees? May I have a second?
Mayor, it seems that we have someone that just raised their hand. Would you like to give a public comment on this item, ma'am?
No, I think she wants to provide a comment for another item, but let me speak to her.
Thank you for the clarification.
We have a motion. Is there a second? I'll second. We have a motion by Councilmember Barcena and a second by myself. City Clerk, will you please conduct roll call vote?
Council members Barcena,
Yes.
Councilwoman Cortez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Flores Franco,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Chavez,
Yes.
and Mayor Pulido.
Yes. We will now move to the next item on the agenda. Public participation is now open for items listed on the agenda. City Clerk, please introduce the instructions for public participation.
Thank you, Mayor. The members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on items listed on the agenda. Please state your name for the record before addressing your comments to the City Council. Each speaker and written comments are limited to 3 minutes. Callers wishing to make a comment may do so at this time, dialing *9 from your phone. When instructed, dial *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining us through Zoom app may request to make a comment by using the raise hand feature on Zoom and select the unmute or the microphone icon when instructed. And we'll begin to hear any members of the public who are physically present in the council chamber. And again, we did not receive anything for this particular, for any agenda or for any items on the agenda. And we do not have any virtual participants who want to provide a comment, and we did not receive any written comments.
If there's no objection by the City Council, I will close public participation. City Manager, will you please give your report?
Thank you, Mayor Polito. Sorry for the delay there. I just want to make a note of a couple things that the city and staff have been working on the last few weeks. Back on October 6th, our community development group held a property owner workshop. This was for our recently adopted rent stabilization ordinance to help property owners understand their responsibilities and their role within that new municipal code. Also, just a note, on Saturday, we had the 5K and Art Expo event. It was a great event. I think it was a nice mix of having the exercise, fitness, and art. You wouldn't naturally assume that that's a good fit, but it seemed to be really good. From my perspective, I think I participated on both sides of it, and I appreciated both pieces of that. Also want to make a note, the police chief and the police department's supporting a lot of community events the last couple of weeks. They did a coffee with a cop, attended the Spirit Vigil, Bell Gardens High School homecoming, 5K, the Faith in Blue event at church yesterday. So just want to acknowledge the chief in particular has been here for probably the last 14 days in a row, something like that, working on community events. So I think that's appreciated by everybody. On a forward basis, I just want to mention we've just opened our first Veterans Banner program. It's open for applications right now. People can come in person in any of our park facilities or at City Hall, or they can go online and get the application and find a way to submit the information for a veteran that is a resident of Bell Gardens. In addition to that, we'll also, if we don't have enough veterans to fill up all of our posts, we'll also put additional banners up celebrating Veterans Day. I want to mention this Saturday and Sunday is one of the 4 or 5 yard sale weekends in the city of Bell Gardens. You don't need a permit. They're allowed all day for yard sales. And then I mentioned that we had a property owner workshop for the new rent stabilization ordinance. So also as a follow-up to that, next Thursday, October 20th at Veterans Park from 5 to 7 p.m., we'll have a tenant workshop for rent stabilization ordinance. So we're trying to make sure that information is out there from both sides of the rental equation. I also did want to mention we had the Spirit group here and just mention we've been working with them for a while now, and they do have office hours at the Community Family Services Center on the 4th Wednesday of every month from 2 to 6 p.m. And they also have their offices open again in Bell Gardens, just about a block south of us on Garfield. And that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor Polito.
We will now move to the consent calendar. Does any member of the city council wish to put an item for separate discussion? May I have a motion to approve items 2 to 8 on the consent calendar?
I'll go ahead and motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Councilwoman Flores and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Chavez. City Clerk, will you please conduct a roll call vote?
Thank you, Mayor. Council members Barcena,
Yes.
Councilwoman Cortez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Flores Franco,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Chavez.
Yes.
And Mayor Pulido.
Yes. City Manager, will you please announce discussion item number 9?
Yes, thanks again, Mayor Polito. This item is a request for the council to approve the purchase of a drone package for the police department. This piece of equipment is a non-lethal piece of equipment that has a multitude of uses, and we're presenting it to the council as a discussion item. In the past, there's been questions about drones, I think at conferences that I've been to, and even from residents regarding the use of drones and what they are. So we just want to make it abundantly clear to the council and to any stakeholders that are watching the council meeting what this actual drone equipment does. So with that, I'll turn it over to the police chief and Captain Camacho to give a presentation about this purchase.
Thank you. Madam Mayor and members of the City Council, thank you for having me here tonight. Over the past 3 years, the Bell Gardens Police Department staff has been conducting extensive research on a rapidly evolving drone technology and community impacts and benefits from various public deployment programs. The Bell Gardens Police Department staff has identified the low-key MK2 drone because it has the ability to enhance real-time situational awareness to be both emergency scenes and everyday calls for service. This particular drone is designed for an interior search. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have you guys take a look at this video that I found on YouTube. And I think it really describes what the drone's capabilities are and really what we're trying to address at the police department by making sure that we use technology for the benefit of the department and to keep the community safe, and also for risk management and liability purposes. Daisy, please.
Wait! Did you download Great?
drone was able to kind of capture and find the location of the individual that was hiding inside that room. The drone is able to have a two-way communication system, so you could, without putting any officers to move there, you could actually talk to the individual window and the suspect or whoever is barricaded inside the situation or the building. So you could give a command without actually putting an actual officer in harm's way. It's a low key by Sky Hero, and it has some of the features that I'll talk a little bit more in detail, but it's no light, no problem. The camera automatically adjusts to the light, instant startup, the remote correction for crashes. So if it crashes into a wall, it kind of just, it bounces off. It doesn't really crash into anything. And it's really important for us in the type of work that we do. Again, this is an interior drone. It's unique because you could deploy that inside a house, a warehouse. It allows for us to really put the drone in there, use technology for our advantage, and have the safety, the safety fence for the officers and not putting anyone in there. It has the enclosed propellers. It allows the drone to fly under tables and furniture, as well in attics and above drop ceilings. Has a built-in camera, as we saw. It actually provides the operator to feedback all that live video to the operator and maybe to command staff. The drone is also capable, as I was saying, it has a two-way radio, so we could use it to communicate whatever we're trying to, get across to whoever's in there, be a suspect or a hostage rescue situation. This is a unique drone because the equipment will allow our police officers to visually clear a structure prior to entry, increasing the likelihood of a safe resolution. Tonight, we recommend that the Loki M2 drone package be purchased with the approval of City Council with the total cost of $13,000, $834.20. Any questions?
Yeah, thank you for your presentation. I'm curious, and I know that you might not be able to talk about any, recent cases, but if you can, I'd appreciate hearing it. I'm just curious, when was the last time you needed something like this, that it would have come in handy?
So maybe about a month ago, we had a resident call in, call for service where he saw somebody go into his garage. The officers, because it was an enclosed garage, there was really not a whole lot of windows. So this would have been the perfect situation because it would allow us to deploy the drone inside the actual garage with minimal visibility for us to look inside and really kind of go through it and make sure that there was no one in there. That would have been a situation. But just recently, maybe about 2 days ago, we got a call regarding an alarm going off in a warehouse. Again, it requires a lot of personnel to search a warehouse. With this, you could deploy, you could go down halls, you could go everywhere and really maintain that distance and start developing a plan if we needed to go inside.
If I could add to that, we've utilized them in the past on some barricaded subjects. We've borrowed other agencies and we've had their drone operators come in and fly their indoor drones because we didn't have them at the time. It's really the ultimate de-escalation tool, right? It keeps us from having to go or send a dog into these buildings, not knowing what's in there and not knowing where an individual may be hiding or barricading themselves. It allows us to send this in, have the communication, either talk them down, bring them out. But if we do have to go in, it gives us an understanding of where that individual is. So we're not surprised. We don't turn a corner and end up, being startled and having an issue that nobody really wants to take place, right? So it really is the ultimate de-escalation tool.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions?
Any more questions? Thank you.
Sure.
May I have a motion?
Moved Cortez.
I'll second. Chavez.
We have a motion by Councilwoman Cortez and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Chavez. City Clerk, will you please conduct roll call vote?
Councilmember Barcena,
Yes.
Councilwoman Cortez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Flores Franco,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Chavez.
Yes.
And Mayor Pulido.
Yes. City Manager, will you please announce discussion item number 10?
Yes, thanks again, Mayor Polito. This next item is a receive and file. It's an update from Liz Nava, our Recreation Community Services Director, on the upcoming Winter Wonderland event and holiday parade. It seems like that must be 4 or 5 months off, but looking at the date here, it's already October 10th, so we're only probably about 60 days away. It's nearly holiday time. So with that, I'll turn it over to our director. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. O'Kelly. Good evening, Mayor Pulido and members of the City Council. The item before you tonight is an update and an overview of the Winter Wonderland and Holiday Parade event. Next slide, please. Here we go. Back in May 2023, Council approved a combined holiday event, which included the Winter Wonderland special event and the annual toy and food giveaway event. The event is scheduled this year to take place on Saturday, December 17th at Veterans Park. And we're excited to announce that we will be adding a community holiday parade to this year's Winter Wonderland event. Next slide. Staff are in the early stages of development for the event, but we are planning to start off the day's festivities with the parade. I've attached here a map of a suggested parade route. Again, we're still planning this out and talking this through, but we think the parade will start around Emil and Florence Place and go down Florence Place to Perry, and then turn right on Perry and go up towards Loveland, and then turn right on Loveland to end back at the admin building at Veterans Park. Next slide, please. After the parade concludes, we will kick off our traditional Winter Wonderland event. That way the residents don't have to pick and choose. They can enjoy both. They can watch the parade circle the park, and then once the parade ends, they can enter into the park to enjoy the regular festivities of what you would expect at Winter Wonderland. We'll have snow play areas and snow games, visits with Santa. The toy giveaway will be done, staff is planning, at the Winter Wonderland event. It is a pre-registered event, so we'll ask the community to register if they're interested in receiving a gift. And then we will make that a part of the Winter Wonderland event, of course, along with food vendors, crafts, games, and musical entertainment. Next slide, please. And at the conclusion of the Winter Wonderland event, staff plans to transition into the drive-through food distribution event. We are hoping to have it at the adjacent parking lot that's at Suva Intermediate School. And it will be a drive-through. So once the event concludes at the park, residents can get in their car and line up to get their food at the food distribution event. And that will conclude the event for the day. Next slide, please. Staff are still in the very initial planning phases, but as we firm up the details, of course, we will come back and provide council with an update. But that concludes my report. I am available for any questions that you may have. Any questions?
Yes. Well, first off, I can't believe Christmas is just like, what, you said 60 days away? It's wild. Thank you so much, Liz, for that wonderful presentation. I'm really excited for this as Christmas season. It's definitely my favorite season, probably with like half the world, but anyways, I did ask for this just because I'm really excited about the parade. I've spoken to many old timers from the city of Bell Gardens, and they're mostly excited about the parade because they have pictures from the 1960s on them riding on horses. More specifically, just people that have been here for years and years and years when it was called Billy Goat Acres, and they used to get their horses out of their barns and go through the city, and their kids would shove up their dog presents that were left behind. And they're really, really excited to be a part of it because some of them were kids then, and now they're, senior citizens that are still working or living in the community. So I really hope that we can reach out to them and make sure that they're invited to this, because I'm sure they're going to be very happy to once again be a part of this tradition. My goal for the parade, and I think it should be everyone's goal, is to make sure that we invite all of the talent of our community. We have a couple of elementaries here. We have 2 intermediates and 1 high school that encompasses 2 separate cities. And there's a lot of talent here. We have cheer, dance, drill. We have our band, an amazing band who's been invited multiple times to play at Disneyland. We have our school right across here. I mean, there's a lot of talent within our community, and it's really wonderful that we're going to have this opportunity to display the talents of Bell Gardens. So thank you, Liz, for this great presentation. I think that it's time we start reaching out to our schools. I'm sure you're already working on that. And if you are a school member or part of it, if you would like your group to be included or invited and we haven't been able to get to you, I recommend that you reach out to our Parks and Recreation Department and see if you can be a part of this wonderful new tradition coming to Bell Garden. Thank you.
Yep. Go ahead.
Liz, I just wanted to ask, have you guys talked to the marching band over at the Bell Gardens High School yet? Do you know if they're gonna want to come over?
We have started conversations, not with the band director specifically, but with the principal at Bell Gardens High School. Yes, we have.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, because that would be great if we're able to get Bell Gardens High School marching out here. I think a parade without a band is like, it's something doesn't feel right.
It's not a parade.
So great. Yeah, I look forward to seeing this. And I just want to say the event that we had, the 5K with the art thing was a great success. And if this is the same thing, then I'm sure it's gonna be very memorable. So thank you for making the effort to put this together, even though we're getting close to the actual date. But I'm excited about it. Thanks.
May I have a motion to receive and file this report?
I'll go ahead and motion to receive and file.
May I have a second? We have a motion by Councilwoman Flores and a second by Councilwoman Cortez. City Clerk, will you please conduct roll call vote?
Councilmember Barcena,
Yes.
Councilwoman Cortez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Flores Franco,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Chavez,
Yes.
and Mayor Pulido.
Yes. Public participation is now open for items not listed on the agenda. City Clerk, please announce the instructions for public participation.
There's one more.
Item 11.
Mayor, we
I
have
skipped
one
the
other
whole
item. Yes.
City Manager, will you please introduce discussion item number 11?
Yes, thanks again, Mayor Polito. This item is to discuss the reimplementation of the Bell Gardens STAR program. So this program, there's been some questions lately about when is the plan to restart the program? And just for everybody's knowledge, the STAR program means Special Time for Adaptive Recreation. So with that, I'll turn it over to Director Nava to let you know the reimplementation plan of the program. The program's not been forgotten in any way. And I'll turn it over to Liz now. Thanks, Liz. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you again, Mr. O'Kelly, and good evening again, Mayor and members of the City Council. This item is just a brief overview of the STAR program and the Recreation and Community Services Department's reimplementation plan. Next slide, please. STAR, or as the city manager alluded, is Special Time for Adaptive Recreation, is a program that offers fun and integrated activities for individuals with disabilities, as well as their family and friends. The STAR program creates an environment of compassion and understanding while providing the participants with social activities, special events, recreational programming, and fun excursions. It also provides resources for families and friends and the participants of the program. Like many of the recreation programs nationwide, the STAR program in Bell Gardens fell victim to the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic and was forced to temporarily suspend programming and to close. Next slide, please. Prior to the pandemic, the STAR program had about 50 participants registered, with 30 of them regularly participating in the program's activities and events. So we have some pictures here just to see what it used to be. Next slide, please. And this is a picture of our STAR program participants who ran in the first Bell Gardens 5K back in 2019. As you can see, we had a good showing there as well. Next slide, please. Staff began the process of re-implementing this program back with the budget, fiscal year 22-23 budget process. At that time, council approved and allocated funding for the STAR program so that we would be able to reinstate it this fiscal year. The Recreation Department has recently undergone some internal changes with personnel, and we're in the process of hiring new staff, as well as training and developing those new staff for the STAR program. We're very eager to start the program, but we want to ensure the program's success. So we're taking time to develop the team in preparation for the program's return. Staff will undergo in-depth training, skill development, and other preparations for the re-implementation of the program. Next slide, please. Staff expect that the STAR program will return in full force in spring 2023. We don't have the exact location or the time of the program just yet, but we will, once we have those details confirmed, of course, we will come back and let council know. But what you can expect to see is, again, just fun socials for participants, their families and friends, recreational activities, different types of special events, excursions, and we're planning to build on the resources that we currently have to provide to our participants and to their families and friends. Next slide, please. We in the Recreation and Community Services Department are very eager to start this beloved program back up. My staff have talked fondly about this program, and we don't take it lightly, the re-implementation of the STAR program. And so we are working to be very well prepared, because we plan not to just bring it back, but we would love to expand this program as well. So it is taking us a little bit of time, but it's for good reason. And we think that it's going to be a great return when we do reopen back up in 2023. So that concludes my report. I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Mayor, may I? Thank you so much, Liz, for this report. I have been bugging our city manager for months about our STAR program. There's so many community members that have been inquiring, and also members that were part of our STAR program before that moved out of Bell Gardens. So the fact that they want to come back to our city to be part of this program, that they're eagerly waiting for it to open, it just speaks volumes of what this provided for our community. Yesterday, I had the pleasure of meeting one of our residents at the Faith in Blue event, and she has a special needs child. And she mentioned that, you know, more than even just a space for their children to be, it's also community for the parents to support and feel supported. So I'm happy that we're doing that in the city, and that we're taking the time to hire employees and to equip them with the tools necessary to, you know, work with our community. So I'm excited. Thank you so much for this report and for updating our community. Because I think a lot of them have been eagerly waiting. And of course, these are all resources that are going to be free for our community. So be patient with us, but the program is coming. And it is very, very, very important to the city council. But thank you, Liz and city manager.
On that note, I want to thank you as well, City Manager O'Kelly and Mrs. Nava. I too asked the city manager if you could please put this item on the agenda and have a discussion. But more so, I want to send a message out to our community. The 1 in every 5 child in our country is born with what we call special needs, right? And in order for us with COVID to be able to offer these services, we have to have an appropriate response. It's not just about opening up and not being prepared or giving our residents that level of quality of services that they require. I feel like there's been some conversations, and you know, good things do take time. And with COVID, a lot of them have their immune compromised. Like my sister, who was a part of the special needs, who's part of the special needs community and has DiGeorge syndrome, who was also part of the STAR program during COVID. Obviously, even now with COVID still, you know, being around, it was difficult for a lot of our members to want to come back with the fear of them contracting COVID, because to them it's really life-threatening. So I want to say thank you for the parents that have been very patient with us. What's coming is going to be better than what was there before. And I ask that you please take time with us and just give us your recommendations on what you would like to see. If you would like to reach out and be a part of the involvement as we develop this new STAR program. Back in 2020, right before 2020, a lot of the Miss Bell Gardens girls were involved with the START program, and they were volunteering and having events with them. So I know that everybody was very involved with the program. So I just want to make sure that you guys know that we're here advocating on your behalf, but know that it's impossible for us to bring you quality services rushed. And I know that there's a lot of need out there. We're getting on it, but know that we're working on it, and anyone else promising other than that would be a false narrative. And most importantly, it wouldn't be appropriate for us to just give you rushed events without appropriate responses to our community, because they also deserve quality programs just like the rest of us. So thank you so much, Mrs. Nava, for your due diligence, and to our city manager for making sure that we're pushing this forward and alerting the community that this is actually already in the works for months. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, for me. I just want to thank Liz. Liz, thank you so much for always, listening to the council and to the community. I personally wanted to just share my experience working with Liz, not for this group, but for the seniors. The seniors, unfortunately, they lost their senior center during the pandemic because obviously they were at risk. So we couldn't open the facilities for them. And during that time, we did move some of our daycare operations into the senior center. And by the time the seniors were feeling more like they were ready to go back and gather in that area, unfortunately, we're already doing a program there. So Liz and her staff, they really helped to open up a small room for the seniors to be able to congregate and get back on their card games and playing pool and all that great stuff. So she took care of it. I just want to give you props for that, you and your staff. And because I know that there is a slight deficit in terms of space for our programs, I also wanted to ask, how are things going with the location at Marlowe Park? Because I know that that's going to allow us to kind of like scoot some of the programming in there and maybe open up some space.
Thank you, council member. We're continuing to work with the county. Marlowe Park, we received a grant fund from Los Angeles County to renovate the park and to do some minor upgrades on the building there, in which we intend to create our creative kids a permanent space at Marlowe Park. We're waiting on the county at this point. We have to enter into agreement with them before we can move forward with the projects. And as we've heard in a lot of our construction projects, unfortunately, when it's grant funded like this one, we have to follow the mandates that are given. And one of them is this, an agreement that we're waiting on. So Grisel is taking the charge with that and doing a great job. And we're working with the county to move this forward as quickly as possible.
Thank you for that. That's all for me. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Liz, for the presentation. Appreciate hearing the update with the STAR program. I know it says spring 2023, and I'm glad to see that we already have projected timeline for when it's going to be back up. Just a suggestion, I don't know if it's already being planned out, but I would assume that there's probably a database already somewhere where we have previous participants. I don't know if it's already been thought about, but potentially reaching out to them and then kind of giving them updates about how far along we are in it, and then any suggestions they might have for us to, bring it back even better, right? What were some setbacks that we had back then, or anything that the parents perhaps wanted to see that we never quite touched on, or perhaps we just need to polish. So I'd say that. And then also in regards to the grants and the timeline, I could just imagine how it is. I mean, I've talked to Grisel a couple of times with the sister project and how long that's taken forever. But I'm glad to see that, it's being worked on. And in the future, perhaps, a lot of development that's happening at all of our parks, right? Marlowe Park, Veterans Park, obviously Ford Park, the Aquatic Center, you name it. Potentially having some sort of access point for community to see where are they in the stages, to see, oh, this is going to be expected to be done by, spring 2023, right? I don't know
I don't want to say perhaps a full-fledged workshop, but somewhere where it's just on the website where we can just access it and say, projects coming for Veterans Park, this is what's already in line, and this is the expected deadline or timeline for it, right? And then obviously if there's delays, constantly updating it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. May I have a motion to receive and file this report?
I'll go ahead and motion.
We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Chavez and a second by Councilwoman Flores. City Clerk, can you please conduct a roll call vote?
Councilmember Barcena,
Yes.
Councilwoman Cortez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Flores Franco,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Chavez,
Yes.
and Mayor Pulido.
Public participation is now open for items not listed on the agenda. City Clerk, can you please announce the instructions for public participation?
The members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on items not listed on the agenda under the subject matter of the City Council. Please state your name for the record. Each speaker and written comments are limited to 3 minutes. Callers wishing to make a comment may do so at this time by dialing *9 from your phone. When instructed, dial *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining us through Zoom app may request to comment by using the raise hand feature on Zoom and select the unmute or the microphone icon when instructed. We'll begin to hear from the members of the public that are physically present in the council chamber. And we did receive one non-agenda item. Marta Carrasco, adelante, por favor.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Marta Carrasco. Yo tengo aquí en esta ciudad más de 50 años. Estoy un poco decepcionada, ¿verdad? Por la razón de que aceptaron el control de rentas. Yo nunca pensé que iba a llegar a vivir en esta situación ahora. No es por el aumento de que los dueños no podamos hacer, no es por eso. La razón por la cual no estoy de acuerdo en esta ordenanza que tienen ahora es por la razón de que nuestra ciudad ya no va a valer lo que valía antes. Cada día va a devaluarse por el control de renta. Los comerciantes ya no van a querer venir a esta ciudad porque el control de renta arruina todos los negocios. Y eso es la razón por la cual yo nunca he estado de acuerdo en control de renta, pero bueno, ya lo hecho está hecho, ¿verdad? Ahora otra cosa, la mayoría de los propietarios somos personas mayores de mi edad y yo quería que ustedes cuando vayan a hacer una ley o ordenanzas nos manden por correo la información de lo que piensen hacer que nos afecte pues a los propietarios, porque la mayoría de las personas mayores son las que tenemos propiedades, pero no sabemos entrar, no sabemos entrar al internet. Entonces eso es lo que nos tiene ciegos, diríamos, porque necesitamos correo que nos manden. Y eso es muy importante para nosotros porque no sabemos usar nada de eso. Y esa es la razón por la cual yo decidí venir a hablar con ustedes, que nos manden por correo. El único correo que sí recibimos todos los años son los taxes y con el nuevo aumento. Ese sí no falla, ese correo. Así es de que, por favor, mándenos eso, la información que puedan tener ustedes, ¿ok? Y pues muchas gracias.
That was the last public comment cards, and I do have one who we received virtually. Zoom ID, Martha Pineda, if you would please select the microphone icon to unmute your call.
Yes, thank you so
Proceed with your
much.
comment.
Buenas tardes, me llamo Marta Pineda y yo trabajo aquí en la ciudad de Bell Gardens. Sí aprecio mucho a Marta también, quien ha hecho su comentario. Y solo quería clarificar y también suplico que el concilio clarifica que nueva construcción, personas que quieren hacer nuevos desarrollos en la ciudad, el control de renta no aplica a esas propiedades. Hay como varios detalles que quiero que todos estemos claros, que todos sabemos la ley. Y me encanta que la ciudad tuvo 2 diferentes talleres sobre la ley y a quién le aplica y a quién no le aplica. Y eso es todo. Gracias.
Okay, Mayor, members of the council, that was the last speaker we had and on virtually, and we did not receive any written communications.
If there's no objection by the city council, I will close public participation. We will now move to council member comments. Councilmember Barsana?
Yes, I wanted to ask our Recreation and Community Services Director, do you know if we work with DESI? It's a local nonprofit organization. It's called Designated Exceptional Services for Independence.
I don't know off the top of my head if that's an organization that we work with.
I'm asking
before.
because I got an idea during our discussion about the special needs program, the STAR program. So maybe later we can talk about this particular organization because I think we could network with them. I know that we're already working with a lot of nonprofits through our Family Services Center, but I do think that this one tends to fly under the radar. So I will touch bases with you, but thank you. Okay, I also want to thank my colleagues for all the work that you guys do. I want to thank the city staff and the city manager. Thank you for being supportive of the 5K with the art component. Again, thank you, Recreation and Community Services, for that. Thank you to the police department for supporting the march / vigil that was put together by Spirit. I think that was very successful thanks to your support. Thanks to the support of the Recreation and Community Services as well. You guys are doing a tremendous job and I really appreciate that. I wanted to also let our maybe our community development director, I want to redirect the question from the comment that the public comment remark that came in regards to, did we send out any mail or did we try to contact residents, and what were those efforts like during our rent control discussions and workshops?
Councilmember Barsena. Oops. There were flyers that were sent out to approximately 500 residents. They were to our community services department based on information we already had. But ultimately, the main source was through the city's website and through social media. A lady who just spoke, she was at the property owners workshop this past Thursday, and she did voice that opinion. And I agree that we should have funds to next time to be able to send out a citywide mailer, because there are people, unfortunately, that do not have access to the internet or are not very savvy with a computer and so forth. So it would benefit them to get it in a physical mail.
Thank you. Thank you for answering that. So we will, listen to you and to your remarks, and we will continue to try to keep all of our residents better informed. As you guys know, we recently approved the rent control ordinance, and we know this is a new thing that we're doing, and we know that there could be the need to adjust things, but this is the first huge step that we're taking. And if we continue to work on it, we're gonna make sure that we reach out in ways that are convenient to all of our residents. So thank you for your public comment. And that is all for me today.
Councilwoman Cortez?
Thank you, Mayor. First, I want to acknowledge that today is World Mental Health Day, which was instituted in 1992, the year that I was born, so that must mean something. But I just want to bring it up to our community. This day signifies, or it allows us to break down the stigma when it comes to mental health issues. It normalizes therapy, it normalizes self-care, it normalizes, having to go to a psychologist or psychiatrist. So as a community, at the same token, while we're talking about domestic violence and different issues that are going on in our community, mental health is also very important. I think as a city, very humbly, we're doing a great job of providing spaces to have these conversations, and we'll continue to do more programming, but also coming out to our 5Ks or recreation programs, the things that we offer outdoors, that is a great resource to increase your endorphins and to overall better your mental health. The worst thing that we can do is stay at home with our pains and our struggles. So we invite everybody in our community to come out to our different events. We have one coming up October 31st, but let's acknowledge today that it is World Mental Health Day, and I hope everyone took some time today to have a little self-care. Next, I also want to mention I want to bring it to our voters and our community that there are some propositions on the ballot that could potentially hurt our city. I am the vice chair right now for the California for Self-Reliance Joint Powers Authority, so I'll be making more explicit posts on my social media pages regarding some propositions that are hurtful to our community. So please be aware and read all your props and vote accordingly. I also want to thank Grisel and our Public Works. I know I sent you an email already, but I do want to mention and highlight our amazing Public Works. They installed the three-way stop this last weekend, I believe it was Friday, on Scout and Florence Place. And I know that was another issue that I was bugging all of you about, and the residents were very content. I went out to talk to some of them, and they mentioned that it had been many, many years of accidents and of problems in that intersection. So they're content that we listened to them and that we provided at least a solution for now. And I know we're complementing that three-way stop with additional enforcement. So thank you, BGPD, for that as well. But thank you, Public Works. You guys are amazing, and it just impresses me everything that you can do. Lastly, yesterday I did have the opportunity to attend our Faith in Blue program. I believe that was the name, but I do want to thank Padre Nabor and the church for allowing us or giving our BGPD this space. I think it was a great opportunity for our residents to mingle with our department, to learn everything that we have. And I saw many kids and teenagers that were interested in the field, and they had an opportunity to talk to someone who could potentially mentor them. So I think for me, that was the biggest takeaway. So just thank you so much for that. I had a great time. And that is it, Mayor, for my report. Thank you.
Councilwoman Flores Franco.
Yes. So Mayor, I might take a little longer than Jorge today. Hopefully not. Can you hear me? With that, been judged before them by the sitting governing body. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions. The first one would be, do you know off the top of your head, since your arrival to the city of Bell Gardens, how many parks or improvements we've been able to accomplish?
I would just say off the top of my head, if we kind of run through the parks, if you start at Veterans Park, I think you notice the baseball field has been significantly improved for use for team play. The purpose for that, if I shift over to Ford Park, is because we have a cistern project going on, which is basically a gigantic football field size, 2-story deep stormwater containment system that's really beneficial for the environment and for the water table here in the central basin area, not just Bell Gardens. That's taken up for the last 2 years our ball fields. In the meantime, though, at Ford Park, and also at Veterans Park, we've installed new LED lighting. In addition to that, we've got a $4 million Prop 68 grant that we're working on now. As the director mentioned earlier, these grants take time. People are giving us money, so we have to work on their timetable. and all of their administrative requirements. So new LED lights, new ball field, and we've got another $4 million of improvements coming. In addition to some new benches we put in that I think are important to mothers and caretakers that have kids playing over in the play area at Veterans Park. Ford Park, so the cistern projects in there, that is something again that while it's an inconvenience to the residents and the stakeholders here, it's a great improvement again to the environment and for the region. And water being as precious as it is, these are the kind of projects that 20 years, 30 years, 40 years from now, people will recognize that the hardship that goes into it now has paid off. In addition to that, we've secured upwards of $13 million for replacement of the aquatic center there at Ford Park. We're continuously working on additional funding for that project and to keep moving as fast as possible with demolition and starting the project with the monies that we've secured. If I move over to the Neighborhood Youth Center, we recently had the Kaboom grant with new playground equipment go in. It was a great event. Was very little cost to the city for about $250,000, $300,000 worth of improvements at that facility. If I move north from there to Marlowe Park, we recently took over occupancy again of the two buildings that are at Marlowe Park. We've got $1 million grant to make improvements there. We've done some other minor issues as minor cleanup and fixes there as well. And then I would also just like to point out some of the smaller things that we've done at all of the parks. I think our Public Works Department's doing a great job at keeping things clean. Small things just as there's toilet seat covers in the bathrooms. There's every reason to not put toilet seat covers in the bathroom because they're used to plug up toilets and other damage that's caused. But if that were to be the case, there'd be no point in letting people walk on grass. You may as well shut the bathrooms down. There is use and there are things. So our Public Works Department's really stepped up in providing toilet seat covers, which I'm sure families are appreciative of. So multi-million dollars worth of projects that are in the pipeline now that we're currently working on, and a significant number of projects that have already been completed at the parks. That's off the top of my head as I kind of swing through the park.
Now, most importantly, now moving forward to our budget perspective, can you please tell us how much we had or didn't have when you first arrived and what it is that we have today as far as our budget?
Sure, I could just loosely say, I think the fiscal year 18-19 budget, if I use that as a starting point, was about a $2.6 million deficit. Since that time, we've taken a lot of energy and effort to ensure that the budgets have been balanced, even with COVID, even with the casino, with our heavy reliance on the casino revenue. The casino was shut down for multiple months. We've been running surplus budgets for most of the last 3 or 4 years. I think the number that I would look at, people can kind of talk these all kinds of different ways. So I can use a pretty simple number to describe the financial condition of the city. And this is after COVID, after the casino, after some federal funds that we received that we had to use to replace our casino monies. The general fund balance, there's a lot of ways to measure it. So if you just measure it from an apples to apples basis, has gone from about 19 million to projected to be about 30 million. When our financial statements come out showing our June 30, 2022 numbers. So if I look at what is that improvement from? Some of it's economic factors that we can't control, but a lot of it are economic factors that are in the control of the city council, which would include, sales tax measure, water rates, things of that nature. And at the same time, developing new revenue sources, either through grants primarily, or through other innovations to just ensure that the finances continue to improve.
And now, off the top of your head, how many homes have we been able to bring to the city of Bell Gardens?
Approved. So recently, the council approved 100 affordable units at the former Burke Oil site. I think in addition to that, my time's almost up. We've got at least 14 or 15 other units that have been approved over the last approximately 3 years, in addition to the 100. So about 115 units, give or take.
Awesome. I was going to ask another question about how many females we've been able to hire in our police department, but I don't know if Daisy will let us get to that question. Were you, Daisy? I think she said yes.
I can answer that question.
Go for it, Chief.
Since I've been chief, we've hired 4 female officers. We've also put 4 female officers into backgrounds. One of those is currently in backgrounds. 2 of those individuals that were in backgrounds took positions at other police departments, and one of those didn't pass the background process. So I believe it's 8 or 9 total that we've attempted to hire. We've actually hired and put on payroll 4.
Excellent. Thank you so much for answering that. That's going to conclude everything. My purpose was to inform the residents of the city of all of the work that's been successfully coming through here and back onto our streets. So thank you to all of our staff that makes this work, because we can give, again, all the direction, but if you guys aren't spearheading these efforts and leading by example and wholeheartedly with the best intentions for our constituents, it wouldn't be happening. So thank you again, City Manager, and to all of the directors here today. That's all for me.
But Mike, the most important question is, have the little flags been stolen from the crosswalk?
At last check on Saturday, I personally saw the orange flags at the crosswalks on Florence Place to help people wave in the air and be recognized as they cross. I guess I'll look to our Public Works Director to see if she has an update from today.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. As of before the meeting started, there was still the 2 at Perry and Florence Place and 1 flag at Florence Place and Email. So there was at least 1 flag at each location, total of 3.
And maybe if we could put the call out, if there's somebody in the community that's in need of orange flags, instead of taking them from the intersection, if they can let us know, we might be able to help them out.
And I apologize to the mayor for speaking out of order, but I really wanted to know if you can give us an estimate of how much each flag costs, because I know that was one of the highlights, that it's extremely cheap to replace them. But don't take them.
Yes, the cost of each flag, I believe, was about $5.
Okay, that's not as cheap as I thought, but good to know though. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Chavez.
Okay, I'm glad to see that we got that timer. So I'll go ahead and I'll start off by, I know we talked about it a little bit earlier in regards to Indigenous Peoples Day. So I'm glad to see that we celebrated here. And I'd like to acknowledge the land that we're actually on right now, the Tongva, the Quiche, and the Chumash tribes that were originally natives people of this land. So I'm glad to see that we're here, which is now called City of Bell Gardens. We're celebrating that. Secondly, this last week we had a grand opening of Cano Health right there at our Bell Gardens Marketplace. It was a great experience. We had our community development director attending. We had some of the staff and community planning attending as well. I think all of the staff was there. And we welcomed them to the city. And it's interesting how that plaza has developed over time. I remember growing up in this community, going there as a kid where, you know, the Food for Less was smaller. There was a VHS store, a video store. There was a Subway in that section. There was a 99-cent store was on that side. And then there was Factory to You, which then eventually became Payas Paredes or vice versa. So now it's a clinic, right, dedicated to our seniors. So a lot of development that has happened, you know, since you know, from the memories of growing up in this city. So glad to see that we finally have, you know, something there and it's for our seniors. And thirdly, we had, obviously, I know we talked about domestic violence awareness. We also talked about the walk. So I just want to again thank Spirit Family Services Center for, you know, doing a march and walking and hosting a vigil. That was really great. Thank you so much to our PD for being there and assisting us on that. It was great. And I'm glad to see the women, you know, I like to say, you know, Mujeres Poderosas really standing up and talking about this very, very sensitive issue. After that, obviously, this weekend, we had our 5K. Glad to see that it was back in action. I feel glad that I'm able to say here on the council that I'm the only one that ran the 5K. I arrived in the top 30% of the runners. It was great. I really enjoyed the trail that we planned out this time. Thank you to PD, thank you to Public Works, Recreation staff. Huge shout out to Councilmember Barcena for including that big component of art. I know that that's something that he always strives to push. So I'm glad to see that we incorporated the art concept. And at the same time, I'd like to also acknowledge Councilwoman Cortez for about 2 years ago when pre-pandemic. I know this is something that was huge and dear to her heart. So I'm glad to see that we're still continuing that on. Following that, yesterday, we had the Faith in Blue weekend at our here local church, St. Gertrude. It was great to see our PD mingle with the community, the residents. Huge shout out to obviously St. Gertrude staff that was there, and also Father Nabor and Father Justin, who allowed this to happen and occur. Beautiful patio that they have set up. It's recently developed, so I'm glad to see that we actually have a space there. I think before there was bungalows, but now it's a really incredible space, community space that they've created. I'm reaching the halfway point right here. Following that, something that wasn't mentioned, but briefly do want to touch on huge news. Farmers markets this Friday, right, is our first one. It's from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. I can't wait. This is something that I know council, even before I was on this council, this has been worked on. So I'm glad to see that we finally have farmers markets here. And I remember in the first conversations that I had with Liz, I said, hey, this is one of the things that I definitely want to see this flourish. And next thing you know, right away it got done. So I'm glad to see that we have that here in our city. So don't forget Veterans Park, 11 to 3 Fridays. What a perfect time, because kids are coming out of Suva at that time, Suva Intermediate Elementary, and parents are picking them up. So glad to see that's happening. And then finally, you know, one of the concerns that I know was brought up in regards to an item that we touched on was rent control and potentially, you know, lack of communication on the part, I feel, in the city when it comes to reaching out to the community, right? I know, I think we really have to measure and understand the discrepancies when it comes to our population that we're serving, right? I think obviously we like to be technology adaptive, and I know it's easy to make a post and share and go live, right? But I think at the same time, as a city, we should also figure out a way of potentially, I know, sending out more through mail. I know that's something I talked to the city manager briefly right now, and we talked about, I said, how much does it cost to send out a piece of mail, right? To all the community. It's about $6,000 to $7,000 per item or thing that we send out in the mail. So potentially for any big projects that are coming forward, you know, potentially inform the community, send something through the mail as a direct way to reaching them. I know all of us have experience when it comes to reaching out to voters. All of us have experience when it comes to canvassing, sending out mailers on our own experiences, but perhaps try to transition that and adapt that in a way where we can also have the city do that, right? Similar to how what I think of is like, for example, the Measure A proposition that we had like 2 years ago on the ballot, where I know we were all for it, we were all coming out in support of it. We had obviously lawn signs and we made communication efforts, but potentially we all knew it was going to be beneficial. And look at it now, it's brought in so much revenue to the city and sales tax. Put in some sort of method or apply similar methods to getting information out from the decisions that we're making up here in the dais, aside from just doing workshops or that sort of, or simple posts on social media. Not to say that those don't work, because they obviously do, but potentially reaching out to everybody, being inclusive of everybody, including folks at the senior center, etc. So that's just an idea, and I'd like to see, you know, or see what other cities have done when it comes to adapting to that. So again, appreciate everyone's attending. Glad to see that we have the public here in our city. Appreciate it, and yeah, thank you so much. And I got 10 seconds to spare. Thank you.
Thank you so much for participating in today's meeting. It was lengthy, but half of it were presentations, so that was fun. And also we have my commissioner here that sat through the whole meeting. Thank you so much, Francis, for being here and listening. First meeting live, and you're here, so we expect to see you here next meeting as well. And with that, good night to everyone. And if there's no objection by the city council, I will now adjourn the city council meeting at 8:05 p.m.